Well, good evening. Carl Aquillo here with a little dark side for you. It's always fascinated me how much people will just protect their own minds. It's a really interesting reaction, and you can't really fault them too much for it. I mean, if we all went around constantly changing our minds all the time, well, we wouldn't be able to have a grip on reality. I stumbled on this today and thought about started thinking about it a little bit more because I had posted up some things in some different groups, and I've really been going back to some of the atheist groups that I used to hang out with. They're really, well, the traffic on them is really seeming to die off. I don't know if they were all driven by Christopher Hitchens, and now that we don't have anyone near as dynamic as that maybe the super militant atheist movement is starting to wane a little bit. But those that are still into it are very much um, well, very rooted, and changing your mind from something like that is very difficult because then you have to go back and look. Oh no, I've been doing it wrong this whole time, and that's painful. It's tough stuff. So yeah, I try not to be too upset. I get miffed, of course, at especially some of the responses. And it's all very much righteous indignation, but you can very quickly understand when someone is suffering from cognitive dissonance, when they're just being completely unreasonable online, and all you do is mirror back to them and say things like, okay, well, exactly did you have a problem with? And then they don't respond, or they come back with nothing but rage, and you're stupid, if you're lucky. So, yeah, the thought police are real, and they're very real because, well, we love to get together in bands because we like to surround ourselves with the shield of people around us that are like minded and to have our thoughts mirrored back to us. It's very comforting. So, an initial reaction, especially on a platform like Facebook or Twitter where you're just scrolling, you'll catch something out of the corner of your eye and you're I don't know if it's right to call it the lizard brain, but there's definitely the part of the brain that's more in control for the snap judgment, and it'll protect the rest of you from having to do a whole lot of processing. And so when you come across an idea that you hate, you get triggered with a little bit of, or a lot, of negative emotions. And one thing that people will do is just get on there and call the other person horrible, horrible names. That's all right. If that's happened, you know you've totally stepped on somebody's worldview. Of course, there's just some nasty people out there, but for the most part, well, you put that wall of anonymity in front of people, and they can actually say what they want, while at the same time protecting themselves behind their computer or behind their phone, and still getting that release of, yep, I'm right, they're wrong, and they feel like they've done something about it, reinforce their view. Now, I started to understand this a little bit more as I've been reading, and here's Scott Adams. He's the creator of Dilbert. Very interesting man. He realized that Trump actually had a much greater chance to win when he saw Trump speak, because Trump really was very good at persuasion and manipulating minds. Now, strangely enough, or interestingly enough, Scott Adams is a trained hypnotist, and so he was able to pick out the signs of exactly what you can do to manipulate someone's mind, and a lot of it has to do with how you frame things, and whether the facts are true or not really doesn't matter. And there's good reason for that, because if we always went around changing our mind all the time, we wouldn't make it very far. Now, you can read Scott Adams' book, and that's definitely worth it. I've read it. I think he has some very interesting ideas, although it's a little bit how should we say, it's a little bit depressing because I spend my time over here on the logo side of things. Now, if you haven't seen this before, these are the three key parts to any argument that you'll ever make. Ethos is how you look, how credible you are. This is what happens when people will attack that directly. Anytime you threaten their worldview, they'll start calling you names, and because the easiest way to destroy someone's potential power of persuasion is to crush their ethos, because you can do that with simple name calling. And pathos, that's emotion as you see up there. Emotion in the sense of, well, tell me a story, and can you engage someone in their feelings. Now, it's also a very interesting twist to this is it's not just you can engage feelings of kindness and warmth and love, but it may be even more effective to engage disgust. That really gets people going. And if you think about the kinds of news articles you read all the time, you know that disgust is a really powerful way to get you to read something. Now, if you just deal with ethos and pathos, you're actually dealing with something called sophistry, because if you just play around with emotions and story and propping someone up with ethos or tearing them down with ethos, and you don't have this logos component, then you don't have the foundation for your argument. Now, I don't completely agree with Scott Adams. But I think that he's right when it comes to initial snap reaction. You're not going to change anybody's mind using just logos. But if you don't have that there, and if you keep seeing the same argument over and over again, eventually, I think that the power of that repetition is just as powerful as, say, Trump's a pathological liar, which, good chance that he is. But I don't know. I've always wondered this about Trump. I wonder how much he is doing it on purpose. I don't know that we'll ever know, but I think he's egotistical enough that if he is doing it on purpose, he also does it times when it's not on purpose, because if anybody with a high ego is going to try to protect that ego very strongly, and they'll do that through lying and by going back and replaying the movie in their mind and recreating a narrative where they're the good guy. It's always very fascinating. Well, I thought I'd just drop that one on you tonight. Hope it was useful. Carl Killo, this is The Dark Side. Good night.